Alright guys, today we are going to look at how we're going to solve two-step inequalities. So in 6th grade, you did solve one-step inequalities. So you had something that maybe looked like this. Negative 4x is less than or equal to 4. Or maybe x minus 7 is less than or equal to negative 10. So in 7th grade, we're taking it up a notch and we're saying, okay, now we're solving two-step inequalities. So solving two-step inequalities is very similar to solving two-step equations. There's just one extra step. So these are your steps, kind of like your checklist. So let's look and see what we're doing. It says first circle the inequality symbol. So I'm going to circle the inequality symbol and draw a line down. What this is doing, just like what we did with equations, we drew that line down between the equations to separate the two expressions on the side of the equation to help us say what we do to one side, we do to the other. So this is just kind of a visual to help you out. Then we're going to say, is the coefficient positive? So the coefficient is the number working with the variable. It is not the constant, the number by itself. So the coefficient could either be in front of the variable like this, or it could be under the variable like this, because in front means multiply and underneath means you're dividing. Remember that fraction bar just means to divide. So another thing that we've been trying to kind of help you out with is don't think that this is 4x, because subtracting a positive is the same thing as adding a negative. So really look at the sign in front of that number. So this is technically a negative 4x. So if the coefficient is positive, we're going to bring this inequality symbol down. If it is not positive, we are going to reverse or write the opposite symbol. So that's what we're going to do before anything else. Because what a lot of times students want to do is they start solving these, and at the very end they have an equal sign. Well, you can't be an inequality and then change into an equation. So a lot of times that's what students want to do is they'll solve and they'll do everything else right, but they write the incorrect sign. Once you're an inequality, you stay in inequality. The only thing that could change is writing the opposite symbol if your coefficient is negative. It's not positive. Okay, so let's look. This is my variable is x. The coefficient is negative 4. So because it's negative, I'm going to reverse my sign. So the opposite of less than or equal to is greater than or equal to. Then we just solve like normal. So we want to get rid of that constant, which is positive 6. So I say minus 6. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. So you're subtracting 6 or adding 6 negatives to both sides. But remember, this is not just 4x. It was a negative 4x. So this is why we need to make sure you're slowing down, taking your time, and going step by step so you don't forget those numbers. Because one symbol or one number incorrect will throw the whole thing off. So 4 minus 6 we can't do, but when we see subtraction, we add a line, change the next sign. So if you have 4 positives and 6 negatives, you're going to create 0 pairs. You're going to have 2 negatives left over. Or you can think, subtract 6 minus 4 is 2, and there were more negatives, so that's what you have the sign of. Okay? Now we are one step closer. We need these x's by themselves. So negative 4 was my coefficient. I'm multiplying by negative 4. So I do the opposite. You're dividing by the same number you were multiplying by. And then negative 4 divided by negative 4 cancels out and gets me x by itself. Now this is negative 2 over negative 4. These can actually both be reduced by negative 2. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is positive 1. And negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2. So this would be my solution. Remember, inequalities can have more than one solution. So as long as your number is greater than or equal to 1/2, it'll make this inequality true. Now, I just want to quickly remind you of why we're reversing this sign. So let's just pretend we said x is greater than 1/2. Any number that is greater than 1/2, so or equal to. I'm just going to use when x is 2. So if x is equal to 2, would this make the solution correct? Let's see, 6 minus 4x less than or equal to 4. So if I'm taking 2 and substituting it right there, we want to see if this is correct. 6 minus 4 times 2 less than or equal to 4. Okay? So I'm just going to circle my inequality sign to kind of help me out. 6 minus, well, 4 times 2 is 8, and then this is 4 right here. 6 minus 8 is negative 2. If I had my inequality sign right here, is negative 2 less than or equal to 4? It's less than, so we know that we're right. If for some reason you forgot to reverse your inequality sign, this is going to be one of your trick answers. We know it's this one, so watch what happens. I know that 0 is less than 1/2. So if I forgot to reverse this symbol, watch what happens. 6 minus 4, x less than or equal to 4. Well, now if I'm taking 0, 6 minus 4 times 0, 6 minus 4 times 0 is 0. 6 minus 0 is 6. Is 6 less than or equal to 4? It's not. So this is why it's very important. We can see if we didn't reverse that inequality sign, if we just thought we just bring it down every time, this inequality would not be true. So anytime you're multiplying or dividing by a negative, that's what we want you to look for first to make sure that you're writing the true statement. So we'll practice a little bit more with that, but I wanted to remind you of why we're reversing it. So let's practice a little bit more. Circle my inequality sign, draw the line down. Is the coefficient positive? Well, is 7 the coefficient or the negative 3? Which one is working with the variable? This is just the constant, so your coefficient is a positive 7. Because it's positive, we're going to write the same symbol. So we just bring the inequality sign down. Okay? Then you solve like you would normally for an equation. Get rid of the constant. That cancels out. Negative 10 plus 3, the signs are opposite, so we subtract. 10 minus 3 is 7. There are more negatives. Then we are going to do the opposite. We want this x by itself, so the opposite of dividing by positive 7 is multiplying by positive 7. You multiply or divide by the same number you originally had. So x is by itself. Negative 7 times 7 is negative 49. So any number that is less than or equal to negative 49 would make this inequality true. So be very careful on these because this is how they trick you. You did all the math right, but your symbols are reversed when they didn't need to be, or something like that. So we just want to make sure you're taking your time. So let's try 3 more. Okay? Inequality sign, circle, draw my line. So negative 5 or 4, which one is my coefficient? That's the negative 5. So if it's positive, we write the same symbol. If it's not positive, it means it's negative, we're going to reverse the symbol. So the opposite of less than is greater than. So we're going to reverse it. Then we get rid of the constant, the plus 4 with minus 4. This cancels out. Gives you x over negative 5. 6 minus 4 is 2. So now we need to get rid of this coefficient. I see divide by negative 5, so I need to multiply by a negative 5. Not positive 5. We weren't dividing by positive 5. You multiply by the same number you were working with. Okay? So that gets x by itself. 2 times negative 5, or if it helps you to see in the parentheses, remember that the dot means multiply, the parentheses next to number mean multiply as well. So 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. So any number that is greater than negative 10 would make this inequality true. Remember, with equations, you only have one solution. With an inequality, you have many solutions because there's a lot of numbers that are greater than negative 10, which would make this inequality true. All right, let's try 2 more. Circle the sign, draw a line down. So on the side with the variable, we have a 3, and not just a 6. Think of that as a minus 6, because remember, subtracting is adding a line and change the next sign. So this is really what These mean the two same things. So this negative 6 is my coefficient. So if it's not positive, we're going to reverse the symbol. So this greater than sign becomes less than. All right, so now we want to get rid of the constant, which is this this positive 3. So we get rid of that with a negative 3. So now I have negative 6 on the left, negative 3 minus 3, or negative 33, move to the left 3 would get you to negative 36, or add a line, change the next sign. 33 negatives and 3 negatives is 36 negatives. So all these little integer rules and all these things that we've been learning really come back. So that's why it's important for us to work on our assignments daily as well as memorize these rules. So negative 6 times some number equals negative 36. Well, if negative 6 is in front of x, that means multiply. So we need to divide. So the opposite of multiplying by negative 6 is dividing by negative 6. Again, because that's going to isolate or get the variable by itself. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and then you do the math like normal. 36 divided by 6 is 6. So any number that is less than 6 could be the value of x. All right, let's try one more, and then you have a couple to try on your own. So circle the sign, bring that down. All right, 4, negative 2, and 10. Remember, think of that 2 not just as a positive 2, but as a negative 2, because as we've seen, subtracting a positive is the same thing as adding a negative. So on the side with the variable, the 4 is the coefficient. So the coefficient's either going to be right in front of your letter or underneath, like over here. So that's what we look for. So because it's positive, we're going to write the same symbol. So just bring down that less than sign. Now we're going to go like we normally did with solving two-step equations. So we've got to get rid of the constant, which is minus 2. So we add 2. What I do to one side of the equation or the inequality, I do to the other. So now I have 4x on the left. 10 plus 2 is 12. Okay? But that's not my final answer. I see 4 x's, and I want the value of 1x. So the opposite of multiply by 4 is divide by 4. That cancels out. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So any number less than 3 would make this true. Again, you can always check it. You can put in the number 0. 0 is less than 3. 4 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 is less than 10. So that also helps you to check to see if your inequality sign is facing the right way. If you thought x could be 5, well, 4 times 5 is 20. 20 minus 2 is 18. 18 is not less than 10. And we know that's also true because 5 is not less than 3. So this is how we could check it multiple ways. All right, so now you have some practice problems on your own, and don't forget to ask us if you need help.